LA, it's good to be here with you today. Talking to you about life and things and man stuff. For our audience, tell us a little bit about your come up. When you were younger and high school, college, and even when you got to the pros. Tell us your story.
Yeah, so I grew up in Portland, Oregon. Um, Loved sports growing up. Knew early that I wanted to, early my thing was I want to be a pro. I want to be like a professional. So early on, it was baseball, basketball, football was kind of the schedule. Football season was paired with soccer season. So
Mm-hmm.
let me rewind back. So my dad's Nigerian, my mom's American.
Mm-hmm.
And so my dad's thing was always education first. Like education first, like, okay, the other stuff. So when the sports got mixed in, it was always as a backseat of education's done first, then we can do that.
Got it.
My dad's thing though was soccer as far as sports.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
once sports got introduced, he's like, okay, you can do that football thing, but we're gonna do soccer too. So football season for me, my first 2 seasons soccer usually starts earlier in the morning. So it starts on the soccer field, shin guards on, you're in the car driving to the football game, putting the pads on in the car to play football. So that was kind of my first couple years of football. And my first year of football, actually, I quit the team. First year of tackle football.
What happened?
So prior to that, I played flag. I always played football with my friends, tackle, no pads, all that. Playing football though was different. And so my coach at the time had 5 boys, and I think this is a fifth, sixth grade is the age group. But he had, I think at this time, had 3 boys that had already gone through that stage on to 7th and 8th, and I think he might have had 1 in high school. So the way he's coming at it mentally is different than somebody that's like trying out football the first time. And so some of the first practices are like, all right, everybody line up, your kids. So everybody line up, all right, let's see who the fastest kids are on the team. So boom, I'm blowing everybody away, And so they're like, okay, you're gonna be the running back. I'm like, all right, running back, let's go. So he's like, you're gonna be number 42. The guy on the varsity team's number 42, Kenny Jenkins, he's a beast. You're about to be him. I'm about to make you him. And I'm like, all right, let's go.
Let's go.
And so going out there, like, I wasn't ready for all that. Like what it demanded as far as football and the way he approached it as far as the physicality part. And so like, I was like, man, I hate this. Like, I don't like it. Like, I just got to the point where I didn't like it. So I was basically begging my mom to stop taking me. And so I stopped playing my 5th grade year. But it wasn't the game. It was more the coach. And so I was like, Shade, when I get to the 7th grade, it's a different coach. I want to play 7th, 8th.
Okay.
This other coach. So I, developed and all that. So, but I say that because a lot of times people think like, oh, it's just this straight rocket ship to the top. And, like there's like little parts and points that like.
So you didn't play for 2 years?
So I didn't play tackle football for 2 years, played flag football for 2 years.
You'll play 6th grade, so from then you didn't play till freshman year of high school.
No, 7th grade.
7th grade.
Yeah. I went back to Pop Warner.
Got it.
Played 7th and 8th grade under a different coach, who also happened to be my coach in baseball too. So I still playing baseball, basketball. So then freshman year comes of high school, and when you're in Pop Warner, you have those 2-year splits. So 7th and 8th grade, our quarterback was always the 7th grader, the year younger. So my 8th grade year, I was a receiver running back. Our quarterback was a 7th grader.
Mm-hmm.
My freshman year, our class, the guys that graduated from that, we didn't have a quarterback. So we're standing at practice and our coach like, all right, let's see who could throw the ball. And so he's like, all right, you're going to be the quarterback. And then kind of happened like that. And so
Freshman, you were flexible, man.
no, but I mean
You're the thing in every sport, man.
that was me and another kid though. He's like, okay, you two are going to be the quarterbacks. And then like, as far as like how we're going to focus our time, we're going to run our passing plays. We're not going to have everybody back here throwing the ball.
Yeah.
So kind of like that. And so freshman year is like, okay, like I'm still wanting to be a pro, not knowing it's football, but I'm playing football and doing the quarterback thing, go through basketball season, go through baseball season. And actually my freshman year baseball, I played varsity. Freshman football, freshman basketball, varsity baseball got elevated for playoffs. So coming back my sophomore year, I'm going from sophomore to varsity. And so on the varsity team, they have a quarterback. He's a junior, he's about to be a senior, he's a returning player. So it's like, okay, so going through the spring, we're at passing league and I'm the backup quarterback. So like he does his thing, then I come and I do my thing. We go to one of the biggest ones and we don't have enough receivers. And so I was like, I'll play receiver. And so I ended up making plays and I'm like, I could play receiver this year and play rather than be this backup guy.
Yes.
So end up playing my sophomore year there at receiver, all league, all of that. And then still did basketball, did track because I was like, okay, I want to get faster for football. Started doing track and then started getting my first kind of college letters, recruiting letters. Interest letters.
Sophomore?
Yeah, after my sophomore season. Just getting interest letters, like smaller schools.
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
And I'm like, okay,
School.
I want it to be football.
Yeah.
Rather than it being like this pro thing, I want it to be football.
Yeah.
It's like
Was
my
that like a
sophomore year.
validating point for you? Was it the letters, or were you already feeling it? Like, hey, this is something. There's something here.
The only thing I was feeling was like basketball. I was like, okay, you're looking around, the guys are 6'6" that are really doing it.
Yeah.
Like, okay, I'm not that. I was like, I was thinking I was going to go back to baseball. I was like, hey, I could still be, that was my favorite sport to play. So I was like, I'm going to just go back to baseball.
What position do you play in baseball?
Everything.
Everything.
Center, short, third, pitch, everything. So I was thinking, okay, maybe rather than doing speed, I'm going to go back and play baseball so I can have a 2-sport thing. But it was more like validation, like, okay, like, but it's a fall sport. So everything kind of happens first.
Yeah.
But when I got that, I'm like, okay, I'm going to focus here. So then it was like, okay, I'm going to lift weights in the off season. After basketball this season, I'm going to lift weights, do that. And then go, my junior year, the quarterback leaves. I go back to quarterback. Junior year, senior year, starting recruited. But I played my first year receiver. So some of my college recruiting is, we want this guy to be an athlete. We don't know where it is, but I played receiver and corner. We want him on our team. We're going to figure out where he fits.
Yeah, yeah.
That was some of my recruiting. Some of it was, this guy can play quarterback pretty damn well. I want him to come play quarterback.
Yeah.
Some of it was like, we just want to get him on campus, get him on our team. We'll figure it out.
For sure.
So like, it was kind of like those three were kind of my recruiting buckets. And so going into college, I wanted to go as a quarterback. Having done everything, I was like, I want to be a quarterback. So the schools, like, this is my pot. I'm looking at these schools that want me to play quarterback. And so I ended up going to Boise State. And the year they recruited me, they also recruited another quarterback from Oregon. And they were transparent the whole time. We're getting 2 quarterbacks and we're like, cool, like, you know, it is what it is. And it's like that. So like coming in, we knew what the deal was. Yeah. So, you know, getting there, the quarterback was a sophomore. So, but day one as a redshirt, you're kind of sizing this guy up every single day. Okay. He got here a little bit earlier. Okay. He's in the drills. Who's finishing first? Who's lifting more weight? Like, you're just, as an athlete, competitor, and a man, you're just kind of doing that, right? That competition factor. And we're directly competing for the same thing. It's not receiver, safety, linebacker, where there's like 4 of us out here and we rotate throughout a game.
Yeah.
There's one guy.
There's one guy.
There's one guy with the ball in his hand like that.
Yeah.
So our first year was kind of like, just respectfully, but like we both, it was like that.
What do you have that I don't?
It was like that. And so that was my redshirt freshman year. The quarterback was a junior. We're competing amongst each other, but not for the spot, just amongst each other. The next year, the guy's a senior. Now we're more kind of competing for the spot because there's a backup spot open, and we're no longer redshirting, so we can actually play. We could potentially play. So there's another guy that was a senior actually that ended up being the backup guy, but we're still competing amongst each other. Next year, the spot's open, right? The guy leaves, spot's open. We're going at it every day. Every day we're competing. We're seeing who gets there first, who's going harder, who's leading the guys, who are the guys that are around, right? Like you can say you do all these things, but are the guys around you? Are the guys listening to you? Are the guys following you?
Yeah.
So like all that. But then as a player, you're like looking into everything too. You're like, okay, who's the coach talking to first?
So let me ask you this real quick. So at this point, you know you're chasing this guy. You want his spot.
No. We want the spot. The spot's open.
The spot was open.
Why are both competing for the same quarterback? Held that spot, graduated out,
Okay, I missed that.
and the spot is open.
All right.
There's 3 of us competing for it, but 2 of us.
So now he's saying they're competing, and then he's looking at the locker room, like who will win the locker room? Are the players tall? Are that guy, and the coach is who's the coach talking to?
Following me, or you know, like
Okay. It's open game.
There's multiple guys trying to lead the path because everybody's trying to assert themselves.
Yeah.
So like that's kind of the environment you're in, and so you're like kind of looking at everything. So the coaches are like, look, okay, because it's really like this between the three of us, but it's me and him because we're looking future wise too.
Yeah.
You could choose. I could choose you. I could choose you.
Yeah. Yeah.
So so we're going into spring ball, and our quarterback coach, who's Chris Peterson at the time, he goes, all right, here's what we're gonna do. We're going into spring ball. We're gonna look at every single statistical category. We're gonna chart it, every throw, every rep at practice, during spring game, over the next 3 weeks.
Yep.
And we're gonna make our decision off of that. Because it was really, you could choose whoever you wanted to at that point. So like, all right, bet. So we go through spring ball. And at the end of it, I'm leading in touchdowns, quarterback efficiency, completion percentage, everything, every category there is, like up there, like, okay. And if I'm not number one, I'm in two. But I'm like, I'm not feeling like I'm the best.
But you're winning.
But I'm like, okay, you feel good. Like, I know I still got it, I'm like, but okay, yeah. So then at the end of spring ball, every year you have these exit meetings.
Yeah.
So you go in these exit meetings and like, okay, this is what we're seeing, this is what we're projecting, this is how we're going to work, and then this is our plan as we go through summer, and then there's a plan as you go through fall. So I'm like, okay, going into this exit meeting, like, okay, there's 3 of us competing for the spot. Right now, I feel like I'm the guy, and if I'm not, it's me and another guy I'm competing for, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going into this, and so it's like you go into it, and then it's like, okay, you did everything we asked you to do. We're gonna go this other way, right? And so it's like, okay. And then he's like, yeah, and just the way the other guy's playing, we're gonna go him, and then we're gonna go him, and then we're gonna go you.
Oh wow.
So I'm going in thinking I'm gonna be the guy, if not me in 1A. You got me 3. So I'm like, you take that, and it's like, okay.
How do you take that though?
That's how I beat it.
Soft.
Yeah.
Well, in the moment, you have to, like, it's a one-on-one meeting. It's professional,
Right.
right? It's not like, and that's the thing about it. Like when you're competing at this elite level as an athlete, and you're trying to get to this other level, it's professional, it's reputation, it's brand, it's all that. If you lose it in that moment on him, and then gather it later.
Yeah, but I think he's not talking about that. Like, I think our people will want to know. It's at the tunnel. Okay, let's go. What's really going on behind the scenes, not out front though.
What I'm telling you though is right there, you have to take it because you're going through this professional meeting.
Good point. That's a good point.
Got hit with that.
Good point.
Yeah.
There's third, and then there's inward and behind the scenes. So you're doing
And to literally take this and have to like be able to like not overreact, be able to take the information that's coming, because there's a reason why. So I'm trying to receive the information, but inside I'm hot.
Of course.
But there's all these other factors going on. So it's like, okay, so then leave from there, and I go home, and it's like, okay, they got me 3. I feel like I'm 1. And then you start to like question, okay, like, you're trying to get to the NFL. The spot and all that's great. This is what's hitting me right now. You're trying to get to the NFL. You're not worried about the spot. The whole time I'm chasing this spot and this guy, and measuring everything like that. And I'm like, I'm trying to get to the league. And if I'm not the starter as a sophomore, it hinders my chance. But I definitely got to have 2 years as a starter. So I'm like, and this is my sophomore year. So I'm like, I got to transfer, right? Like, if I'm not going to have here, I got to get film so that I can show them what I need to show them to get there.
Yeah.
So I'm like, okay, I'm thinking that, I'm thinking like, okay, I'm getting robbed of this opportunity. I'm like, they said it was on this. I did that, and now it's not that. So then you're feeling like you're cheated, so it's like, you're like feeling like all that. And so that's like this conversation I'm having with myself as soon as I get home, and then you're like, the realization it might not happen. Like, damn, like, because the whole time going through it, it's like, you're just
Out kicks.
high school, college, pro. It's like, you're just, And then it's like roadblock.
It kind of got brakes. It stopped.
And so it's like, man, it might not happen. So if I transfer at this time, there's no portal. You have to sit out a year or go 1 AA. And so then I'm like, if I go 1 AA, it's like the stats, then you have to really kill it because they're not looking at it the same. And so then I'm like, okay, if I'm being honest with myself, like I'm not even at my highest level yet. They gave him the spot because I'm not at my highest level yet. I was like, at the end of the day, like, okay, if I do transfer and I'm not at my highest level, I'm going to basically be at the same level when I go in this other place, already at a disadvantage. So I was like, okay, what I have to do is I have to stay here and I need to focus on becoming the best player I can be. And I'm going to be ready for the opportunity when it's presented, right? This guy hasn't, like, we're in the same class and he hasn't started a game yet.
Yeah.
So I'm like, okay, there's nothing that he can't go out there the first game and lose it or do something happen. It's like, go. So I'm like, I'm going to be so ready for that opportunity that when I get it, I'm never going to give it back.
Yeah.
So I was like, that's the next thought I started to have. The next thought that I had after that was I couldn't live with just that regret or like trying to point the blame on somebody else of the reason why it didn't happen. It's not going to happen. I'm not going to be like, man, yeah, that coach, yeah, he screwed me. That's why, I had it, but yeah. And you see those guys that would come through the program.
Who taught you how to do that, by the way? Was that from your parents, or I mean,
It was just when I said what I want to do and how I wanted to get there, that was not gonna be my, like, I saw, like.
But so many people blame people. Like, for our people listening and want to know, like, who taught you that? Who taught you that attitude and response, though? It was just in you. Your parents taught you that?
At that time, it was just,
That's really good.
I was not going to go out that way.
Well, the other standout, and we'll jump right back into the story because you've got me in there. But you hit so many key points, and the biggest thing right now that you've touched on it. And you're at this point, you're what, 9? How old are you at this point?
19 or 20?
Yeah.
Man, you're still a young man. You're faced where you make a decision. You either respond or you react, which is what you talked about, like what they saw and how you presented. You brought up a key point because you literally gave us this view of the fact that you might be best to answer this, but where athletes think that your value is just on the field, they're not realizing that in today's world, you said it, it's your brand, it's your presentation, it's so many other layers that raises your stock. And at that point, you literally could have shot yourself in the foot, because you could have gotten the guy's face and said, you know what, F you, I'm the man, walked out.
So many kids do.
You're checked out. Versus you held composure at 19 years old in an executive office, in most cases, right? This is a professional environment because it is a company, right? And you make a decision, it's like, how do I process this? Yeah, your emotions kicked in, but you control those emotions to make a rational decision to take you to.
I mean, you're acting like it's second nature, but I think this is part of the issue, like with anybody these days, the athletes for sure, is they had a hardship, they didn't get the news that they wanted, and they don't really know how to respond. They don't have, somebody in their life that kind of taught them how to process those feelings and how to respond in a way that is the right way, that honors themselves, if not anybody else. You know what I'm saying? So I think that you talked about like it was second nature for you, and that's all great at 19 years old, but that's something that, that's good for our young people to hear.
So I think like with that, I think it's like the knowing exactly what you're going for, I think is what is the part of that, because it's like, if you know where you're going, that's why all that stuff along the way, it's like you're piercing through like an arrow through all that. It's not real within us.
Yeah. I call it beginning with the end in mind. It sounds like you did that. That's something I believe in. Begin with the end in mind.
It was like the goal is the end in mind. Like, it's like, if you want to be like, so like in college, you see these guys come through, and like the guys that's a senior, and you're like, man, he's got it. Oh yeah, he's gonna, and he goes through the process and doesn't even get picked. The next one, oh yeah, he's got it. He gets an opportunity in camp, gets cut. And you're like, these dudes were the dudes. What are you talking about? So it's like, you see it. So you're like, okay, it has to be at a certain notch. It has to be at a certain level. And so it's like, and I think part of that was a quarterback thing. Like when you're like going for one spot, there isn't a lot of like, when like there's no margin for error. You're kind of like going for one thing, and there's one of us.
Yeah.
So I think that probably helped it. But
Yeah.
like at that point in time, it was like, man, like I'm 20 to 21 years old, and it's like, what are you gonna do with your life? Like, right? You're in college. You're like, okay, like your mission was to go to the NFL, and it's like, are you gonna accomplish that mission, or are you gonna die trying? You know. And at that point, I was like, okay, I'm gonna die trying. I'm going to do everything I can to be ready for my opportunity. There's 3 things I can identify right now that I can do better.
Wow.
That I know. Right? So it's like, as I'm being honest with myself, I'm like, I need to step it up.
Okay.
I need to tighten it up, and I can do it boom, boom, boom. So what I'm gonna do from this point forward is I'm gonna prepare as if I'm the guy. I'm not gonna like come up with this third string mentality where it's like I'm in the film session not really caring, or I'm out here not getting warmed up, or I'm waiting in the back of the line. I'm not gonna be doing that. Standing with the guy on the side like, yeah, I know it should be me out there. Oh, look at him. Look, see. I'm not gonna be that guy. And they were in the program, and I'd seen them go through the program, and it's on every level, right? In high school and college, it's everywhere. So it's like, that's not what I was trying to do. So I was like, okay, I'm gonna be ready for my opportunity. I'm gonna dial in, and I'm gonna be ready. And I had a specific game plan for myself, how I was going to be ready. I created that for myself.
How important is it to, because you've played different sports, right? Track, baseball, you know, obviously football. Yeah, you play these multiple sports, and I've heard that some of the elite athletes usually have like the backup. They could have easily been a pro. If they were football, they could have easily been a pro baseball player. And like, how did that play a role in your success going into the NFL as an athlete, and allowing you to be, because even though you were focused, you also stayed flexible but kept moving forward, right? Like, how big of a role did that play in your career journey?
It played a big role as far as like athleticism and skill set, like hand-eye coordination, catching the ball. Like when you go to receiver, it's like that's what you do. But like in baseball, like you do that, you train it differently. Same thing in basketball. It's like the game is different, but it's still about angles. It's still about penetrating. It's still about, it's still about the same concepts, but it's like, because it's different, your preparation, your training, and your workouts are different. So it's like you're getting access to and training these different ways, but then you go back and you play this other sport where it's like you use these same, but you've already built up these other skills. So I think it helped like that in those type of ways, but really it was more like, I think that was the most as far as the skills transferring, because it wasn't ever like, oh, I'm gonna just go back and play baseball. Like it was never like.
Well, I mean, it also gave you, I mean, the ability, right? I mean, if your mindset was stuck on, hey, I'm going to be a quarterback, and it gave you flexibility to play these other positions, where, and I'm sure you've probably seen it, where there's some kids that say, hey, I'm going to be a quarterback. Someone shuts them down. They say, hey, man, you can't be a pro quarterback, but you could be a pro wide receiver, and they let pride get in the way, and they don't go that route, right? They self-sabotage. So I think there's some importance there as far as like being able to stay flexible while still staying focused on big picture stuff, because like in life, we're gonna get derailed, right? It's like, how do you keep your head in the game?
Especially football is one of those sports where kids always start off at this position, and then they go to another position, and then they end up where they're at. Or this guy's not a quarterback. I know somebody specifically right now comes to mind. They thought he was supposed to be a tight end. He wanted to play quarterback. I remember it came down to 2 people. They could have picked either one. This one guy got picked. The other guy did not. The other guy transferred, broke his leg, or had an injury that year, came back, and now he's a quarterback again. He's doing great, fantastic. Or he could have just gone and played tight end.
Yeah.
So, but again, the thing that you said that I think about was that you were very focused. At some point, you got focused on what you wanted to do, and that you were trying to make the league, and you took your eyes off. I don't need to compete for this more than just be the best version of a football player I can, and I'm still want to go to the league. But that's the end in mind talk that you had. So tell me, at the point that this all happened, what happened next?
So then we're at that point where I'm going to do everything I can to be ready for the spot. So that requires a certain film schedule, right? The starter is preparing to play the game. That's 30 hours of film in the building, a couple at home too. but you're in the building. You're seen in the building watching film. So I'm doing that. I'm doing other things. So we go week 1, quarterback, he kind of figures it out. It's his first start. We get the dub. Second game, a little bit better. We get the dub. Third game, a little bit better.
Wow.
Get the dub, right? And it's like you're seeing, like,
He's trending.
oh, he's trending up now. He's trending up. He's trending, man, trending up. So, but you're seeing, like, you're seeing his confidence boost.
Yeah.
You're seeing him, like, he's literally, like, molding into the role. You're, like, watching it. You're like, damn. And you're seeing, like, the team, it's like, we're creating, we're 3-0, going on 4-0. We're 4-0, going on 5-0, right? And it's like, I'm ready for this opportunity that might not come. And so it's our bye week, and I'm in there watching film. I'm like doing my thing or whatever, and this Dolphin scout comes in, and he's like, "Hey, what's your name or whatever?" And I tell him, he's like, "Oh, it's like, why don't you just play receiver?" And I'm like, "I'm a quarterback." Because I got hit with that. I've been getting hit with that. I want you to play safety. I want you to play. And it's like, man, I came here to. I could have gone other places, perceived bigger places, better opportunities. I didn't think they were. I thought the opportunity I did was best, but. So I'd already been hit with that question, but I'm like, I'm a quarterback. And so, like, we kind of finished our conversation, whatever, we leave. But then, like, that day I remember just kind of going home. And it's like, I could just play receiver. Like, my goal is to get to the league. It's not to play quarterback. Like, so then, like, I'm still going through this process. Like, right at first,
You had
like,
thought about it.
that was 1.0.
Well, he just made a comment and you thought about it hard this time.
Not even hard yet, but it's like this, like, it's sometimes I think people, like, it's not that. It's like a water kind of seeping in and kind of like spreading. It's kind of like a process sometimes, right? And so that started a process for me because he was where I was. It was validated by the fact that he was an NFL scout.
Uh-huh.
He posed me with a question that, like, he saw the opportunity there for me, I think, was part of it too. Why don't you just play receiver? Trying to go to the league? Why don't you just play receiver? Like it was like that. You're trying to get the league. And so, like, that started that conversation in my head. I'm like, so I'm like, I could play receiver. And I'm like thinking about everything I invested into the role. I'm thinking, so there is that pride stuff that comes in play because it's like, you're thinking about everything that you invested. You're thinking that, man, I'm good enough to do it. Like, why would I switch positions?
Yeah.
So you're going through all that. And so then I'm like, I finally come to the point where I'm like, okay, I'm gonna switch spots. I'm gonna switch spots. And so I go in, I talk to the coach, and he's like, "You want to switch spots, huh? To receiver." So he loved the idea. He's trying to like act like he's surprised or like, oh, I never even thought about that. But he's like going. So he's like, we're going through this conversation. So it's like, he's like, okay, we can see what that looks like. But along the way, I had gained the skill to look internally of how I could get better. I've learned the skill of application regardless of the result. Right, I wasn't a starter, but I was still applying myself in a certain manner. So I had a standard that I held myself accountable to, and there's one other thing, but along the way, I'm like learning all these things, and I'm doing all these things. So then when I switched to receiver,
But on that point, though, you spent so much time and energy mastering the quarterback role. When you switched, obviously there's a love language there, right? Do you think it was a benefit to you once you made a transition to a wide receiver?
Parts of it.
Understanding the quarterback, what they do, their positioning, how they're going to throw the ball. Did that play a role in making you better as a receiver?
The things that it made me better at was knowing what the picture the quarterback needed to see and when he needed to see it, right? Based on the pre-snap reads and coverages, that helped. Knowing all the routes, so I could play all the roles. Some guys only knew like one spot. I know all the routes from this spot, but yeah, I can't play that spot. I could play all the spots, so it gave me like a wider net to play. But technically, I wasn't there, right? They're going to all these states and getting the best high school players out of everywhere. We've got the best D1, JUCO players coming in every whole year. These guys can play, right? And then it's like you just switch over, and it's like they're just jumping my stuff, like cutting in front, like cutting it off. So like there's this process of trying to like refine that skill set and getting feedback from the guys. Like, hey, you jumped that. What'd you see? So so going through that. But so eventually go through that process of switching into receiver, end up starting my senior year, getting drafted, going and playing in the NFL and doing all that. But it was that process right there of all those skills that I built in that, like, I call them like defining moments. They're like moments that kind of like, you got to define how, like, who you're going to be. How's this moment going to define who I am to still get me there, rather than define the reason why.
Were you really thinking like this at that age?
That's kind of like me looking back at it now, but I call it, but like now I call it defining moment.
Okay.
Looking back, because there's like all these moments along the way where it's like, dang, you did that. When it's like, you see so many people do that. And it's like, but it's like, that's just what I was on. And so, and it was like the guys that Jordan was my guy. Like the guys that were the best of the best. And you're like, and it wasn't like, I didn't get to see what he did, like Hernan wise. You just saw he was a killer out there.
That's
right.
right.
He was prepared. You saw he was trained. But you like now we can see more what guys do, but it was always like this mystery. So it was like, you're in those, and you're doing your thing. You're like, he's probably doing like 600.
Yeah.
So there's like always that, but it's like, it was like these guys that are the best, there's no like, you don't hear them talking in that tone. There's a specific way they're looked at.
Yeah.
Respected.
Yeah.
All those things. So like, that's kind of like what I was chasing.
Okay.
So I didn't really like, the other stuff.
So yeah, you made the transition. Tell us about the transition and the success you started to have at the wide receiver position. And do you remember the game? Like what was your chance? What was your breakout? What happened?
Well, that first year they kind of put in a couple packages for me. Like, okay, like these 4 plays you can kind of do.
And you're sophomore still.
Yeah. Okay. These things you can do well. So like in our bowl game,
Okay.
so I had a couple little plays like that. And then junior year ended up starting. But it was, man, just putting in work, man. Just like really working at it, getting better at it.
It's not like you couldn't do it. You played every sport there was before this. So you had all the ability. You just learned technique, right?
Yeah, just the application.
Yeah.
Rather than applying it there. Now I don't need anybody to throw, like as a quarterback, you got to throw it to somebody. Now I can just go out there and I can let my feet work.
Mm-hmm.
I can work on my get-offs. I can work on my routes. There's different things I could work at and that I needed to work at. So I would do that. And like it's funny, I met one of our receivers that we graduated with. The first time he met me, he was like, I walked out on the field and you were out there with some cones by yourself, like just going at it.
Yeah.
He's like, and then we met because he came out there. He's like, I just like, who is this dude? I couldn't meet this dude. Like, who is that?
Yeah.
So, but it was like, that's like, I was just trying to get there,
Yeah.
And so,
So LA, the there's that saying, new levels, new devils, right? So it seemed when you go to high school, you had your challenges and you start zeroing in, and then you go to college, that came with this layer of challenges. Kind of walk us through what that next step looked like going to the league and what challenges came with that.
Good question.
So the hardest part about that is it's the best football players in the world.
Yeah. The 1%ers, right?
Right? Like
Yeah.
it's like everybody can run.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody's got talent. Everybody's got skill. And these guys are smart. Like they're not even like looking at you. They're looking at the formation. They're looking at the ship, and they're going on your route before you even did anything because they know the tendency of like the play structure.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That's what these guys are on. So it's a whole nother level. And the hardest part about that is it was the same thing though. It was the same thing. So when I got drafted in the 5th round. They had drafted a receiver in the 1st round. First round receivers, everybody knows what time it is, right? It's this is the new car that's going to be here, and we're going to test it out and see what it can do and force feed it. Not in a bad way, but like, yeah, you brought him here for a reason. And so we had a receiver that they drafted in the 1st round. They were coming off of the 14-2 season, so they were a dang good team already, right? And 7 receivers on that depth chart were returning from the previous year.
Wow.
Right? So they were returning 7. They drafted this guy in the 1st round, and I'm drafted in the 5th. And then there's other guys, free agent and things like that. So that's what you're coming into, but it's the same thing, right? It's like, am I competing with you, or am I competing with what it's going to take for me to be that? And so like, that's kind of like what it is. But the thing that's cool about the league is that because you're competing against the best in the world, these dudes are good, man.
Yeah.
You can learn, right? And it's like, okay, so you can ask questions, and some guys are open about it and some guys aren't, but a lot of times you just watch.
Yeah.
You just watch, and you can see it, and you can learn it, and you can apply it, right? And you're like, okay. And then the thing that helped me, I think, the most my rookie year in that transition was, are you a Charger fan?
I'm a Niner fan.
Okay.
My bad.
So we have this guy, So we had this guy, Eric Parker, on the team at the time. Okay. It's like a 4 or 5, maybe a 6-year vet at the time.
Okay.
But 5'10", 165.
Oh, wow.
Dog.
Dog. Straight dog.
Receiver.
Wow.
Precision. No wasted movement.
Wow.
Explosive out of every, like, this dude was good. He was so strong.
Okay.
This dude was good.
So he had all the technique, all the speed, all the power, everything.
This dude was good. But I gave you his metrics.
Yeah.
So you look at him and like, all right, but he was good. So anyway, I'm like watching this dude run routes. I've never seen somebody run routes. It was like the first time seeing Jerry Rice film or something. The way it was just incredible.
Yeah.
But so seeing him work and then see him in the weight room and you see him, and so you're watching, so then you start trying to take notes and you start, but you're not necessarily asking or saying anything. I'm just doing my thing.
Yeah.
Taking notes from what I'm seeing around. But then when they start to see you doing the things
That they're doing.
they're like, okay, hey. And then I started to get little nuggets. Hey, what about, he's like, because he sees that I want it and he sees that I'm working for it.
You didn't ask. You just watched and then did it.
I was walking.
You noticed and you just like,
No, you'd realize certain guys to ask or certain times to ask, but then there's certain things you don't need to ask. You seem to walk, okay, I don't do that. Oh, my man hits abs every time. How many fucking push-ups did he just do? He's at 80, he hasn't stopped yet.
How much of this at this point in the league, how much of this is mental and versus physical? Obviously, they're both just as important. But if you were to put it in a ratio percentage, what does that look like?
I think it's 100% mental and 100% physical.
Yeah.
because you said everyone was talented. So, but as we talked about earlier, like what's the differentiator? How are people, is it like some people have more speed, some people have more
In the physical, because the reason is every day it's elite level performance. That's the atmosphere every day, not just on Sunday. No.
Yeah.
On Wednesday, on Thursday, on Friday.
Yeah.
We're filming everything and we're watching everything, and it needs to be like it's going to be on Sunday.
Yeah.
Right. So like everything is measured in your body, like to push your body and demand that of your body every single day is a lot.
Yeah.
So you're prehabbing, you're rehabbing, you're doing everything. You're mentally having to get yourself there because. So it's like it's 100% because of some guys will, I'm gonna just go at 80 today. I'm not feeling good, or that's I'm gonna be out of love. Go ahead and get this rep. So that separates some guys, right? If you can't 100% physical every single day, that could be your differentiator. Part of that mental too is what you're willing to push through and things like that. But the other part that's mental is, I think it's mental is probably the bigger part of differentiator. It's 100% of both, but the differentiator because how you approach things and how the habits that you create, right? You hear about, like, if you watch football, you'll hear about these guys like, oh, he gets there at 5 a.m. every day. And like, but these are things that are habits for these guys. Like, they're not just doing it to do it. It's like, this is what I do to play.
It all leads to something. This is
my process to play well.
Yeah.
I want to be a Pro Bowl player. I want to be whatever it is. And this is the requirement of it. Just like how my version that I was giving was my requirement of, this is a requirement of it. So it's like, and I think the differentiator is that the guys that understand that and create that as their habits, their norm, and their process, rather than like when it matters or when somebody's there or when somebody's pushing them to do it, when it's my internal, that's the differentiator.
Okay. So I have a question when you're done.
Yeah. So Mike Tyson says this his famous quote, right? Everyone has a plan until they get punched in their face.
Oh yeah, that's right.
So there's the IQ aspect of it mentally, but there's also the EQ aspect, the emotional aspect of it. You shared briefly the story how you had to actually control your emotions. Naturally, there was fear, there was doubt, there was these things fortunately earlier in your career, which I think started shaping.
That he overcame.
Right, and you overcame.
Yep.
Like, what does that look like when you're Sunday, you're on stage, on the field, right? All eyes on you. What does it look like for an athlete when things aren't going your way? You know the play. You know what your body can do, but things ain't going your way. How do you keep your head in the game? We hear that, right? Keep your head in the game. He's in the zone, right? Like, how do you get there? Or how do you, when you're not there, how do you get yourself back in the game mentally, emotionally, right? Because you know those things. What does that look like?
A couple things. Well, one, I think I think it's about the reframe. It's about the self-talk, and it's about your norm being so norm that you're getting yourself back to that. Like, this ain't what I do, and you're getting yourself back to your norm rather than like trying to like talk yourself to jump off this cliff. Like, oh, I just, and so like, that's one of the things I see a lot with, with high school guys. I'm coaching high school guys now. And so like when things will happen in the game, this emotion will come out and this yell will come out and it's, we gotta. And it's like, like that's part of it, but it's like, okay, what are we doing with that? Are we constructively using that? Or are we just spewing that? Because then if it's just thrown out, you can't like, then you have the reactions of that, right? Some people like, oh man, like I can't mess up.
Yeah.
So that, like there's different reactions off of that. So it's like, that's what I see now. And so like, that emotional part of it is huge in the response.
Well, that's why he was talking about the mental aspect of the game, because, you'll have those emotions, but how do we channel or control those emotions? I want you to talk a little bit about the preparation and the things that you talked about and the things that you would do, your routines or your process, whether it's game day or preparing for the week, that maybe somebody is struggling with that or they don't really have the right routine. What kind of advice would you have for some young people out there, or actually anybody that is trying to get into a better routine for the work that they do?
Well, I think the first thing is that most people played sports or were an athlete at some level. And I think if you just dumb it down seriously to that, in that frame of mind, you can create a system for yourself. So really it's about creating your plan, right? As a player, a lot of your plan is created for you, the schedule, the practice.
Yeah.
So it's like, okay, so I have to create my plan. So create your plan, right? And then what does the plan look like? When am I going to do those things? Okay. Like as a player, I have to watch film. I have to work out. I have to eat good. I have to sleep good. I have to recover. I have to prehab. I have to, that's probably like more in season. Like that's my schedule.
Okay.
As far as, and then you'd add on weightlifting and all that, speed training, all that in off season. But like, those are the things that you have to do. So it's like creating that game plan. And this is the hardest part, I think, once you get to college and especially in the NFL.
Yeah.
Because like in college and like as a kid, like, right, you can have the better trainer. You can go to the school that has better coaching. And it's like, you have resources that put you in better positions to execute, right? Like if you're already good and you have good coaches, like, no, we're going to do this, and we're going to attack him.
Yeah.
On the high school level and things. And then you get to college. But once you get to college and pro, it's like everybody's good. Coaches are good.
Yeah.
They all have the same resources. They're going to hire good. I mean, there's hierarchy there, but
Of course.
and then once you get to, but in college, the time resource is probably the biggest constraint, because it's like you already have your training bucket's full, your lifting bucket, your speed training is built in, your nutrition's within here, your class schedule, your study schedule, if you are working, some guys did, but it's like those things are already filled. So it's like on the younger level, for me, one of my biggest things was like I was an outworker. Okay, after practice, I'm gonna before practice, I'm gonna and off season when guys didn't want to work and didn't have a plan, I'm going to. And I'd always do those things.
Yeah.
Now I'm at the stage where it's like, we're all doing the same exact thing.
Yeah. Yep.
So like, I had to figure out, okay, as I create my game plan, how do I win in the margins? How do I beat the player that is doing the exact same schedule, the exact same things as me? How do I beat them? How do I do it better? How do I get more out of it? So you create your game plan and then you identify those things. Like, what are going to be the things that are going to be your differentiators? Right? Okay, this person's doing the exact same thing. What are the differentiators?
Yes.
Identify those. And then it's just really just like having a system where you can track it. As a player, we're watching game film.
Yeah. That's good.
The game,
That's good.
or you have your practice. Like you go home from practice, like, dang, I dropped 4 balls. You can wait until the game to go drop that ball, or you can be like, I need to work on catching that ball on the left side because I keep dropping it and it doesn't feel comfortable. So it's like, and same thing in our life, right? There's certain things that, but it's just applying that same process. And I know that that's the thing that even guys that like me and like pro guys and college guys, they struggle after the game. It's like, man, what am I going to do? But it's like, bro, you have all these skills.
Yeah.
Right? It's like you have all these things that you can use. And so it's like, and that's what I think you guys are doing here. And I think that's so cool. It's like, okay, like how do you use these tools? And like, okay, what are your tools and highlighting those things? But it's like, okay, let's, I think the reframe's key.
And I want to come back to that because I think that's the big motivator for today, right? Like this story that we're sharing, your wins, your losses, your challenges, kind of how does that translate to, right? I want to come back to that. The two things that have always stood out to me, whether it's people I do business with or people I would hire or people that I connect well with, the common denominator has always been two things. And that's always work ethic, people that had great work ethic, right? Not necessarily talented, but I'm talking just in the big spectrum, the work ethic, right? And they were always coachable. And my thing is remaining coachable, right? I always say that's also what keeps me young, right? Because I don't feel like, hey, can't teach an old dog new tricks. That's not my attitude.
Right, yeah.
Always room for
We can always learn. We can always grow. We can always get better.
for growth. And I think that's an area that at the parallel, right, that I see of a lot of people struggle is the remaining coachable aspect of it. Because in hearing you talk, you kept talking about seeing film, getting critiqued. Hey, you should be a wide receiver. You should do this. So this is what's happening. What did you see? You were transparent enough to ask the question saying, what do you see me doing wrong that I need to fix?
There's one more thing you talk about all the time, and it's humility, and that's part of the learning. We can always know more. We could always get better. We could always improve.
Yeah.
And it's when people say, and I think there's a lot of, and you said it earlier, it's about the self-talk too, because I think, when things don't go our way, how do we handle that? And sometimes it's, I can't, I won't, I don't deserve it, I'm not worth it, or whatever it is, versus somebody that says, and even if they give their best shot, doesn't mean it's going to work out for them, but at least they can say, I know, I love that when you said earlier that you weren't going to be the guy that was going to blame somebody else, that if you were going to do it, you were going to die trying and say, look, it just didn't work, but it was on me.
Right.
Or it just wasn't meant to be, or it wasn't for me. And I like that too, because that's not, and we talk about this a lot, that, we believe that we can be overcomers of our situations, right? And we don't believe in the victim mentality. We're not about it. Because the victim mentality means all the, I can't, I won't, I'm not, those types of things. And then again, if you make effort in trying something and it doesn't work out, try something else. It's not meant to be like yourself. Like, I'm going to be a quarterback. Now you're a wide receiver. You tried your best at that, and then it ended up being something else. A lot of people would have lost to no decision, stopped at the quarterback, never played, done, and that would have been their pride. So you did have a lot of humility at the time, even though you had been told that, maybe you thought about it. But like you said, that water kind of seeping in a little bit. And that's where, again, another thing, one of my two things are attitude and effort. He said his two things. We have the right attitude, right, I can do, and the right effort, it means we try. That's all I ever cared about, and I see a lot of that in what you're talking about.
LA, what is, we talk about that self-talk, and this is a team sport, right? What does it look like off the field or in the locker room when, we talk about community, right? Hanging around the right people, iron sharpens iron. What do those conversations look like with the other players, especially, in some cases you're competing against that other player for that position, but how important or did it even play a role in your mental development through this process, as far as like making sure you're on guys that you can lean on when you're not maybe feeling your best? Because we're not always operating in
No, that's true.
Right? True. There are days we're going to get upset. We're going to feel down. We can have that mental toughness, right? You can feel that way, but I always say, but you don't have permission to stay there. Yeah. So when we can't do it on your own, who do you surround yourself with to get yourself out of that?
I've never really been a person that's done it like that.
How do you do it?
I'm more like by myself. If I need that, I think, I don't know. I've never had when I'm in that moment, had to go out, that moment in college going through that, I was by myself. Going through that process. When I got drafted, I was here in Mission Valley in a hotel. The first weekend for minicamp, you're in a hotel a mile from the facility, and it's like you're going through that process through yourself. So it's like you're not. I think it depends. I think certain people do thrive in that type of environment, but because I think part of it being that you're competing with these guys and those things like that, there's moments and there is times for that, in the locker room and things like that, but It's not necessarily for the support aspect of it. I think that the guy, there'll usually be like a pack of 3 or 4 guys that like, okay, we're all in the same position, or we're all in the same draft class, or we used to go to the same school, or we're the ones that hang off the field, but you're a lineman, you're a linebacker, and I'm a receiver. Like you have like your guys on the team, and they'll kind of know like how much is riding, like they'll want it for you just as much as you do. So when you make a play, they're the first one, hey, nice job.
Yeah.
Or when you need that, they'll come,
Dab you up and everything.
yeah, but it's not like I never seeked that. Like, I made sure to do the same thing for my guys though. Like if it was somebody, it was, and I think that's what I think happens. I think naturally you just start to cheer and root for your guys. Like when, he's getting his opportunity, hey, do your thing. Like you're giving the little pep talks like that, but it's not like,
well, in any team, you're always going to get, you got the glue guy, you got the guy that's going to cheer everybody up, you got the guy that just does it and doesn't say anything, and you got the guy that can talk but can't play. I mean, there's every group on the team, right? It just sounds like you were super focused, super laser focused on what you were trying to do, and you did it by example. I mean, were you a talker though? I gotta hear. Like, wait, come on, were you
like in the game or what?
everything? I want to know. I want to know. Hey man, were you a talker in the locker room? And what about the game? Because I mean, did you talk trash or what?
That's the mental aspect of the field, right? You can break.
Were you quiet or did you talk?
I would talk, but not. I would talk to raise the level. Like so,
Okay.
like amongst ourselves, I would talk to raise the level.
Okay.
I would let the DBs know today that like none of you out here can stop me. We got one-on-ones. Step out if you want to.
Yeah. I got.
There's a reason that
Okay.
that. But like again, like but to raise the level of our collective.
Okay. What about with the receivers though? What about your mutual receivers? The other 2 receivers on the team. Would you talk to them?
Yeah, we were. Yeah,
Yeah.
we were boys. Like
You were boys.
it's true. Is like
Okay. Yeah.
it's different when because like as a positions you have like
So do you mean when you were talking to the DBs that you were like trying to build them up or trying to encourage them, or you were trying to get them going like you could do better, you can't stop me? Like what was it?
all of it.
All of it.
Trying to let them know
Okay.
who the dog is. Trying to let them know that I don't think like but you're really trying to get the best out of them, and you're trying to help them develop too.
Absolutely. What about in games though? Tell me.
In games, I'm not really talking unless
You don't talk. Okay. So if they're not talking, you're not talking. But if they're talking, then you're talking?
Not necessarily, because my thing is I always play the same way. So I'm gonna play like
Okay.
as a receiver. I think the biggest advantage that people miss out on is on a run. Like they take these plays off, and so like if it's a run play and I'm making you play as a DV,
Okay.
I'm making you play rather than letting you like only play the passes.
Gotcha.
I'm having to beat a better player on the passes.
Seems like you were very much a lead by example kind of guy. Because I've been listening to everything you're saying. Like you were sitting back, observing, watching, looking, then doing, asking a little bit. Like so many guys wouldn't even ask. I mean, there's got to be a lot of guys that wouldn't ask to get better, wouldn't ask for the little nuggets. I mean, it just seems like you wanted it more than everyone else. That's a big sense that I get in talking to you right now.
I really wanted it, but like sometimes you don't. Like I was saying, you don't have to ask. Sometimes that feedback is coming.
No, when I say wanted it, I mean you wanted to make to the league. I mean, what I'm saying is you wanted to be great.
But I played with so many guys that wanted to do the same things, that had it, that were probably better than me and didn't.
Why not? What happened?
The defining moments that I've been talking about, it's like.
So there's a lot of choices. See, that's what I'm saying. Like I want people to hear and listen and pay attention to this, because when those moments come up, and we feel like life is practice, and then all of a sudden it's not practice, it's a real game right now. It's on. It's really happening. Making those key decisions, I think how we make those key decisions in those key moments of life, I think of the San Antonio Spurs thing is like they have this thing where they're chipping away at a rock and the rock cracks, but out of 100 million chips, it's not like one big crack on the rock. And that's what I hear. It's like a bunch of little decisions lead into some good outcomes. But it just sounds like you were super focused on what you wanted to do. So I need to know, what was your reason why you did all this? Was it because, I mean, for me, when I played sports, when I was younger, I was good enough to where it made me feel good. People said I was good, so that I needed it. I had to find other things I was good at as I got older. But what was your reason for why you did what you did at that age? And even now, I want to hear.
I don't know, man.
Come on, man. No one's ever asked you? everyone has a why. Like people do things for a reason. You want to make your parents proud. You want to be the big dog. You want to wear, you know, you want to drive the car. You want to be rich. I mean, what else? I mean, what was the reason?
Have like a certain lifestyle, but it was like just seeing like at the time Deion Sanders, seeing Michael Jordan, like seeing these guys like
Dion, man.
Like these guys were players, and just like watching the game, going to commercial and going outside and like doing a little time. I remember that.
I did the same thing.
You know what I mean? Like it's just the way that made me feel like I wanted to do that.
Yeah, I did that in basketball. I like to see Dr. J or Earl Green, and I went out to the, out to my, my garage, hoop and trying to do that move. I'm like, I couldn't do that. Well, I was trying.
That's a thing. But it was that feeling made me want that.
So how were you brought up? Because you sound like you were well put together, man. I mean, you must have been raised really well. Were your parents on you? Man, the best out of you? I mean, because you seem to have a lot of wisdom about certain things, whether you knew it or not, at a younger age. And if you were doing all this and you didn't really understand what you were doing, I mean, you just, what, are you built different? You too tough or something?
No, I'm not saying that. I'm just saying like, I think that knowing what I wanted to do was really knowing that, because then it was like everybody has a plan and get hit in the face, but it's like, I just wanted to do it. So it's like, okay, like how do I figure it out how to do it? How do I get better to do it?
Yeah.
I'm not good at it.
You made it simple.
I mean, like, but along the way, I just kept working at it. And then like, the feedback part, like just trying to learn from it and the people around me, and working with like little private coaches. Okay. My coach is not really looking at me. Like, what are you seeing? Okay. My quarterback that I was competing with our junior year, so our junior year, I'm starter. He had struggled our first game of the season. He threw 4 picks, struggled.
Oh man.
Which is kind of an up and down season. The last game of the season, we're at home against Boston College, and the play ends on interception going in on the 2-yard line. We drove 96 yards. He throws a pick at the 2-yard line. Comes out of the game, out of the stadium, fans are like, you need to get out of here, like going through it. Ends up finding a visualization coach that worked with golfers. And because he was mentally like trying to get himself back together. And so he was working with this guy and seeing a lot of good things. And then he hit me up, hey, I'm working with this guy and it's really helping me. I think you should come through. So I think it was like the quote unquote growth mindset, the willingness to learn, to try, like, why would I do that? I'm already, okay, where?
Yeah.
Try it out. Like, it's like that willingness to learn, willingness to get better. I love that. I love that.
I mean, I'll tell you, even as an employer, we have about 50 employees, and, we do hire for attitude and effort. We're in the pharmacy business, but you have to be skilled in some positions. But for everything that's not pharmacy related, we hire for attitude and effort. And one of the things we look at is their ability to learn. If you've done it, that's great. But if you're qualified to do it or you're capable, let's look at that too. If you have the right attitude and
that remaining coachable aspect of it.
Remaining coachable. Well, it takes humility too. So,
saying if you're willing to step out of the box to sharpen the saw in an area that directly or indirectly will benefit on the field, right? Yeah. So let's fast forward a bit. And, we're talking about kind of the successes, the challenges, the IQ, the EQ, the physical aspect of it. How has your career in football, with all that being said, how has that prepared you? Because it was a career, man. It's years, how many years staying focused on something.
I ended up playing 6 in the league.
Right on, man.
Yeah.
Nice.
That's 6 in the league, but you talk about college, you talk about high school.
Oh, yeah.
There's a lot more to that, right? How has that prepared you, those wins, those losses? How has that prepared you shifting into civilization, right? And then also giving yourself, your brand. You were known as you're a football player, you're a football player. Now that stops. How do you mentally prepare for that?
So one thing I was big on while I was playing was, especially like my last 2 years, was like, okay, like not saying that it was coming to an end or I saw it coming to an end, but like, okay, what do I want to do after this? And so like, just looking into different things, like looking at real estate things. So I had this notebook where I had like pages where I would just kind of run through little profit and loss statements, right? Like, okay, these are the rents. This is what it's okay. This is what the mortgage would be on that. And just like going through the math and going through the exercise of like looking at different investments. I was doing that. I ended up buying a place. I ended up not that year. So the first year I ended up buying a place, but then still going through that process and just like looking to learn at different things. Like I went to school for business management. My dad was an entrepreneur growing up. So like, that's kind of always what I thought I would do post-career, but just kind of like, so I like kind of had that eye of like looking at
Already.
for opportunity type of an eye.
Yeah.
So doing that. And then once I transitioned the next year, 13, in the spring is when I got my first business here in San Diego. And so my wife was already in the industry. We ended up purchasing another location. But once I got, so like it was the same, the crazy thing was it was the same skills as far as like the learning, the willingness to like go to these conferences and like learn the lingo and learn like, okay, this is what the game is. Okay, these are the pieces. It was the same things going through that. And so like that part, like, you know, I was good at like figuring that part out. So you figure that out. Then you get in the business, right? And then you're in the business and then you're like, okay, you have all this knowledge, but the people in the business are like, but you don't do it. You're a football player. And you're like, you have the knowledge, and it's like, no, but we need to be doing it. Like, okay. But they're looking at you through that lens, you know?
Yeah.
And so you're then like, okay. And then you go through the process of, okay, like that locker room, the team.
Yeah.
Okay. So like,
It's all coming out now.
it's all the like, it's creating that relationship, like seeing, okay, what makes them tick, those type of things, speaking to that. And then now I can celebrate your win. Like how my teammate. And so like kind of doing some of that stuff. And then they're like, okay, you know, wait, what was that thing you were saying? Cause you know what, you know, like once you have their ear, then it's like, we can build something.
Yeah.
And so, it was like, and so then going from that process of learning industry, getting experience with running business, you're like, it's the same thing.
Yeah. I love what you're saying, because I think so many kids go to college with the hopes of going to the league, and a lot of them don't. Most of them don't anyways. And they don't have that desire to learn, or they don't have that upbringing like where your parents said, the schoolwork is the classroom's first and this is second. And they put an emphasis on that because I think it really positioned you to give importance to your education and learning. And not everyone needs to go to college. I'm not saying that I didn't finish college, and I do fine. But the point is that you used what you had to position yourself, and you had interest. Like, I know this is coming to an end at some point. What other seeds can I plant for other things I want to do, you know, post my football career? And we talk about too that who we are is not just what we do for work.
100%. Yeah.
You know, and so when it's, because if we're only that, when it goes, we go too. And then that's not a place we all want to be. So whether you're a famous person or an athlete, or, you know, you're an actor, or, you know, you don't sing anymore, whatever it is, you know, who are we? And so that's the kind of thing we always talk about is, you know, we're a child of God, we're husbands, you know, we're a brother. If we have a sister, you know, we're a friend, you know, all of those things. Outside of your career, and, you know, tell us about, you know, you got your family. You're married to Aaron, I think, right? And you got a couple kids. What are their names?
Yep. So we got 5 kids. We got Steele's 18 months, 11, Kinsley, Rylan, and Caden.
Wow, man, you're busy, bro.
18 months to senior year high school right now. Wow. And so, yeah, so doing running our business. We have 13 locations throughout the county.
Yeah. What kind of business is it again for everyone? You know?
Tanning and spa.
You got 13?
Yeah, we got a medical spa actually downtown. So running that, high school football, kid.
You're busy, man.
Yeah.
You're busy. Life is good, though.
Yeah. I mean,
how's it being a dad, though? Talk to us about that. We always talk about that because that's something where we don't get do-overs. You know, we get sick, you know, we have one chance to do it right. You know, when they're out, they're out.
Right.
How's that going?
It's cool, man. It's a lot of work. I think it's a lot of work, but rewarding. Cool. I think the thing that, I don't know, this is just a perspective thing that maybe I have, I don't know. But like, I think that like, and just seeing like how, cause I work with a lot of kids and athletes and have worked with all stages, and you see things, and you hear like the feedback parents have, but I think there's a small window where you can actually impact and have 100% attention. And I think that people think, you know, they have it through high school because they're in the house, or they have it through the certain age that they have in their mind. But I think it's smaller than people realize. And so like right now we're like in this like, you know, our youngest two, where it's like we got our business to a certain point where we can spend our time different ways and things like that. So it's like we're really intentional with that, and like being, you know, like in coming from the perspective that there's a small window, maybe it's 7 years, maybe it's 8, I don't know what it is, but I think it's very small. But I think that how you position yourself during that time
True.
compounds the relationship that's going to happen after that.
I would agree with that.
That's where I'm really
I would agree with that. Someone wise once told me,
Yeah. Let's we got like 3 minutes left, right? 3 minutes or so. Let's wrap it up with this, man.
okay, let's do it.
So, you know, you have your history as an athlete, as a pro athlete, the elite. We talk about the 1%ers, but for the broad audience, right? Whether we played high school football or didn't play or sports at all, like what's a tip that you can leave us with your background, that a man in today's world, whether we're a businessman, whether we're a kid in college trying to find direction, husband, like what's the macro advice that you can leave us
It's good.
with your background in place?
I would say that we're all going to face these defining moments, challenges, obstacles, adversity, whatever word you want to use for it. But it's like, as you are navigating that, faced with that, responding to that, it's about focusing on controlling the controllables, right? It's like, what are the things that I can control, and stand locked in on focusing on those? Because you know, a lot of times that's the thing on the athletic field that hurts athletes, right? They're wrapped up over here. They're not focusing on what they should be doing. And personally, you know, like we go through times where things happen and somebody else really dropped the ball, right? And it's like, man, how could you have dropped the ball like that? You're so focused on that now maybe you're missing something that you should be focused on, you know? So it's like focusing on controlling the controllables. And like, I'd say the wisdom from my thing as far as like being dedicated to your process, because my big aha moment came from a process I was committed to that wasn't necessarily tied to the result. You know, like it wasn't tired because I'm the starter, I'm at film, and because of that I met this guy. No, I met the guy that gave me that little seed in my mind because I was committed to a process and doing something. So it's like, just put, you know, do your thing, whatever it is, you know, you're in there, you're doing it, be consistent. And it's like, keep that ear open for growth. Keep that ear open for people to say something. That guy's right there. And it's like, man, like I see that dude all the time. What does he do? Like, hey, what's up, man? My name's, you know, it's like, it's having that willingness to do those things. I think that's the biggest thing.
I love that, man. That's great. That's great.
You guys heard it here. Control the control. Love it, man. Bro, you're the man. Thank you for your time.
Yeah, thanks a lot, later. Appreciate you.
That's a wrap. Yo,
Dude, you did good, man.
Nice.